Hey guys, problems resurfacing. After COVID, there was a big lack of trust in everything and everyone. And I remember the same trust problem happening during the financial crisis in 2007. During 2007, there was pushback towards investors. People were skeptical of selling to real estate investors. Then the big housing downturn came, and I felt both the public's reaction and the housing market changes. What was working no longer did. Turns out the same resentment towards investors and housing downturn is happening again today. The similarities to 2007 are spooky. And just like 2007, many investors will not survive. Well, how do I know? Because I invested through 2008, 2010, made a fortune, and watched a lot of others had a completely opposite experience. If you don't know me, I was broke as a joke, living in my parents' basement, trying to every which way but loose to make it, and then finally got into real estate. Then real estate got into me. I founded House Buyer, where I did 4,700 deals, most of which without any credit or money because I didn't have either. And then I kept the best and flipped the rest, building a $12 million portfolio, working 4 hours a week. Funny enough, in my basement or on the beach. Along the way, I teach others how to do it. So, to adapt to the change in 2007, me and my mentor completely rewrote my sales process for how I converted home sellers for a house buyer. I went from losing $3,000 a month to making $35,000 a month after implementing this. It worked so well, I started teaching it to my coaching clients, and it worked the same for them too. All the while, other investors were failing because they just couldn't wrap their minds around being able to adapt with the changing market. And they couldn't overcome the public distrust of investors. They couldn't craft what I call the irresistible offer. I don't know where those investors are or who failed exactly, but I know a lot of them failed at the same time when prices of real estate went on sale. It was a generational wealth buying opportunity, and those that adapted and stuck with it made a fortune. I did, and it was the last great buying opportunity until now. Because what comes around goes around. They say that this real estate boom and bust cycle revolves on a 20-year timeline. What we're starting to see show up is the same distrust and resentment of investors we saw during the financial crisis, which actually started in 2006, exactly 20 years ago. But in fact, this time around, it's even worse because during the financial crisis, banks were viewed in a very negative way. There were sit-ins, there were protests against banks. They were viewed as evil, greedy entities. So when I offered sellers my alternative acquisition options that sidestepped banks and used seller financing or left loans in place with no money down, and most homeowners were completely okay with that offer. But today, the public in general view banks as a good thing. Today, home sellers are like, well, why not just use a bank to get a loan and cash me out of my home? And as you'll see in a second, public distrust of real estate investors today again is at an all-time high, higher than COVID or the financial crisis. And in this video, I'm going to get into what may be the biggest risk in real estate today and who is at the most risk, what history shows us the last time this happened, and why this time it's even worse, and the exact 20-year cycle playbook you can run that's working for us just like it did last time, and the one thing that separates who will profit and who will go out of business. I'm making a prediction on it, and I'll save you the cost and frustration by explaining the solution that turned me from a $3,000 a month loser to banking $35K monthly on a consistent basis. And if you're wondering why your leads aren't converting and why your marketing isn't working and why your offers are falling flat, I've got good news and bad news. And you're definitely going to want to know about this. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm just going to show you what happened then, what's happening now, and what's working now. What's working making offers, closing deals, and making money. And at this point, you can either get burned and bail out or consider changing your view and learning something new. This is one of my favorite quotes by Eric Hoffer. In times of change, learners will inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to live in a world that no longer exists. Learners, the people who keep learning and adapt it. The learned, hey, they already learned it. The learned already learned it. They're like, we've already done it. This is the way we do it around here, baby. And adaptability and continuous learning are much more valuable than static knowledge, especially when it comes to a world that's changing so rapidly like ours. And a lot of investors don't realize this, but nearly half of homeowners would rather not sell to someone like you. Ouch. And that number just jumped 6 percentage points in 1 year. They'll gladly sell to me because I'm doing things completely differently than 99% of my fellow investors. 99% of investors who are stuck in the old ways, the learned. My track record, and that of my clients, proves that what I'll describe is working. And I'm in contact with a lot of real estate investors throughout the country through my coaching, running the Real Estate Investor Association and my hard money lending business. And the problem that surfaced where nearly half of all homeowners would rather not deal with investors has many real estate investors and entrepreneurs who buy property to flip and hold left them wondering what to do. And this wave of distrust in both real estate is real and growing year over year. People selling property have lost faith and trust in real estate investors now more than ever. Check out this survey from Housing Wire. 32% of recent home sellers say they don't trust real estate investors. 44% of Americans would not knowingly sell to a real estate investor, and 73% of Americans blame investors, at least partially, for the lack of affordable housing. Like, what? And that's like, actually, I won't even get into it. And while that's bad news, it doesn't stop there. I found a second setback during my investor deal call reviews of coaching clients. Maybe you have some of these setbacks too. I'm finding many investors fail to collect the right information the right way, don't know how to handle objections properly, seller objections, and can't make compelling offers for creative terms like no money down and seller financing deals. Are you struggling in these areas? Because many are. Deal making without trust looks like manipulation. Trust building without deal making is just a friendly friendship without profit. So because of this lack of deal making skills, compounded by the general public's growing skepticism and lack of faith in real estate investors, I'm taking a bold step. I'm putting everything I do at HouseBuyer and that I teach in my real estate coaching program that's worked in 2007 and is working right now for us. I put it into a Deal-Maker Masterclass, and I'm releasing it publicly for the first time. My proven solution is here to help restore trust in investors. The ambitious ones like you and me, you watching this, you willing to learn and grow. That's why you're watching this. And then profit accordingly. And I can say proven solution confidently because it's worked. I've seen it in myself and all my clients time after time after time and again and again. So because of your interest in this video, I'm going to explain how deal making plus trust building skills equal the solutions to your money problems, marketing problems, and offer problems. By combining the deal making plus the trust building, it leads to more deals, helping more people, making you more money. Deal making crafts the real solution, the offer. Trust gets you the real story. You get this through discovery, which we'll get to. And then trust gets it signed, close the deal. So that's kind of the equation right there. And in the Deal-Maker Masterclass, I'll show the real world results of me and my clients increasing close rates and profits using my proprietary methods, never released publicly, like I say, the opening money line, the key that unlocks the discovery direction, and then the deep discovery and diagnostic. The closing money line, this is not just a sentence, it's a path to profit. And the seller objection handles. So I know you could get the same massive results, but are you really willing to learn something new? If so, let me prove to you how I view deal calls with property sellers, how and why this works, so you have a solid foundation, a solid understanding. You're going to be investing your time and money, well, at least your time. I want you to know that this has a solid foundation and a proven track record and the big why to invest your time and attention. So you may be wondering, well, what's your end goal on these deal calls? Like when you're talking with property sellers, what are you thinking? What's going through your mind? Well, as a multifunctional investor, I keep the best and flip the rest. For these deal calls, I have 3 buckets I put the deals into, and then there'll be 2 eventual outcomes. So I go into crafting the irresistible offer with this in mind. Those 3 buckets are short term, 1 day, like I flip paper in 1 day, or 30 days. Midterm is 1 to 6 months, and then long term is over 6 months, the buy and holds. And then the 2 outcomes are either flip it or hold it. Real simple. And on that note, I recorded a day in the life of the barefoot millionaire next door. I open up my house so you can see what my long-term portfolio looks like and what it does in my life. I go to the mailbox, get the money, and show you how much I can make and how much you can too. And I show you a simple path for how much time freedom you can have and building a lifestyle empire and the fastest way you can create multiple streams of passive income. So if you're interested, there's a link below in the Barefoot Millionaire. So you get some free information. Nothing for sale. So how and why this works. Part 1. It starts with this question. Have you ever got off the phone with a seller feeling like you missed something? Feeling like, golly, it all went well, but they just weren't interested. There's something missing. You were friendly. You asked about the house, and the conversation just fizzled. They said, hey, thanks, I'll get back to you, and you knew you'd lost control. Maybe from the first minute, you just knew you weren't in control. That's called frame, by the way, and we get to that. You left the deal on the table because maybe even from the first sentence of the call, you knew something felt off. Maybe you thought to yourself, it'll just come. I just need more practice. But with every repetition, you ingrain the same bad habits, repeating the same lines that don't work. And without uncovering the seller's true motivation, the big why that you find in discovery, your offer will flop, guaranteed, if you don't hit their hot button. You need to know that pain point to make your solution feel like a lifeline, like you're not even selling. They're buying your service, your house buyer service. So when I started in real estate, I lived with this frustration. Every time I tried to fly by the seat of my pants, I messed up. Every time I missed a crucial detail, lost my train of thought, tripped over my words, couldn't handle the objections, failed to build rapport, which you don't really need to do all, but just for the first couple minutes. We'll get to that. Or I couldn't even convey the sense of urgency and value to get my offer accepted. But then again, I rationalized if I could just get my name out there and do more numbers, if I could close more deals. So I doubled down on my marketing. But that ended up just reinforcing my bad habits, like I said, so my future leads and conversations also suffered low conversions. The gurus told me it's just a numbers game. And on the surface, that makes sense. More numbers, eventually one's going to hit, right? So I cranked up the numbers only to watch my bank account bleed. I quickly and costly learned about burn rate when I assumed more leads equals more money. That ain't working. That's not the math that you want to use. I was spending $3,000 a month on leads and somehow getting poorer. I thought my problems were marketing problems. Was a marketing problem. Turns out my problem was everything that happened after marketing, when I was on the phone or in the home with the seller. So this model I was using was not sustainable. I later learned the same problem, this circular reasoning I was stuck battling, is what ruins most investors' businesses. On top of my frustration and cost of burning through all my leads, I was ruining my reputation. Instead of building my reputation, I looked like an amateur because I didn't have a professional process for conducting and documenting deal calls. Or even when I went and visited at the home. Amateurs and even seasoned investors fail to recognize that discussions with your prospective sellers are part of your marketing. That sets you apart from the pack. Deal calls position you as either a trusted expert or a sloppy, unprofessional investor. So if you have a proven process, you'll earn your prospects' respect and you'll be a welcome guest. Without this proven process, you'll look sloppy and you'll be an annoying pest. Case in point, when I have to call back a seller because I forgot to ask something important. Hey, gee, I say, yeah, Mr. Seller, this is that professional house buyer you talked with just a little bit ago. Well, I forgot to ask this, that, and the other about this important deal, and just looks bad. I got a solution for this. I ran the numbers and found that if I could get an appointment to see the property on the first call, I would close the deal 90% of the time. So if I was professional, showed up like I should, asked the right question, documented everything, handled objections, earned their respect, got the appointment to go look at the property, and I would actually pre-close them too. I wasn't just running around looking at houses. I was 99% sure that they were going to sign my purchase agreement. I verified that with them. I ain't backing my car out of the driveway unless they are sure of my terms, and I'm sure all I got to do is go verify the condition and verify like mortgages and things like that. Getting back to this, the importance of the first contact. When I made an appointment to see the property on the second call, I would only close the deal 45% of the time. That's it, cut in half just by looking professional, showing up right, being what we're supposed to be, professional investors. By looking like an amateur and wasting precious time, that time that my competition might be going out to look at the property, it was costing me a lot of money. The solution: me and my clients religiously use the Deal-Maker diagnostic. It has all the vital documents, questions in an organized way. But like I say, back then I was still a mess. I'm just giving you a backstory before we fixed a lot of things, everything almost. So I had to admit to myself I was being delusional if I thought I could just do all this that needed to be done winging it, using a napkin or trying to remember. And I finally said enough's enough. I stopped taking calls. I put my business on hold, put the brakes on my marketing. I locked the floor to my lab and ordered food and caffeine to be ordered and left at the door twice a day. I'm serious. I took this seriously. My only focus was to crack the code to the vault that held the solution to what is going to make all this work like a machine. I want a sales machine. And during every waking hour, I reviewed past calls that I made. I scrutinized missed deals that I lost, hundreds of them. I was getting there, but I needed more. So, with a wild sweep of my arm, I hurled the stacks of paper and half-eaten bags of food from my desk in search of my office phone, since I don't use a cell phone. Through blurry eyes and shaky fingers, I dialed the hotline to my high-ticket closing sales mentor, and lying in the fetal position under my desk, I explained the emergency to him. I was blowing seller conversations. My burn rate costed me thousands per month, and I was losing tens of thousands in missed deals every month. And I lost the key to my lab, essentially locking myself with no access to the coffee I needed so bad. Anyways, after sending an unreasonable amount of manure to a stealth address, my mentor agreed to listen further. True story. During several brainstorming sessions together, we forged the perfect dialogue flow. We created the money lines, 2 money lines, and crafted the deep discovery solutions based on human psychology. That's why this works no matter what market. It's based on human psychology, not geography. And over the next few weeks, I then made the entire process run no money down deal models for my alternative acquisitions. And then flexible. I made it flexible enough to handle multiple different niches and different deal buckets that I described earlier. and I made it simple to use on the fly so I could make offers on the fly and then eventually hand it off to my assistant. And over the next few weeks, no money down deals. Oh, yeah, I did that. Okay, and then easy enough to hand off to my assistant to duplicate exactly what I did. So once we got all this put together, bundled it up in a nice package, I could then pass it off to my assistant. And you can too. A lot of it. I still review the deals, but that is a great way to scale. The reason I can work 4 hours a week and everything runs like a well-oiled machine is because of the assistant. So when I turned the key to start my business again, running the Deal-Maker Masterclass, the results were amazing. Everything I knew I should be doing was laid out in front of me, just like connecting the dots. Everything a master sales person should say in a paint-by-numbers, easy-to-follow approach, rooted in proven business fundamentals. And that's how all this was built. So that's the story, the good, bad, and the ugly. And the next video starts the education series. So you can learn and copy exactly what I'm doing, exactly what my coaching clients are doing. And you get the opening money line, the key that unlocks the discovery direction. The 3 Ps. There's going to be these in every situation. And then the 3 Ds. This doesn't happen in every situation, but you need to know about it. And then, of course, setting the frame. This is huge. I don't see anyone in real estate talking about this, even knowing about this. If you learn this, you'll be in the top 1%. I guarantee it. How to learn or how to set and maintain the frame. So learning the opening money line alone will completely change the way you talk with house sellers. And actually, a lot of this is transferable to retail buyers when you're selling retail, investors when you're wholesaling, and even renters and contractors. So this is only for the serious folks, and you're probably serious because you've watched it this long. Maybe you have some questions. Maybe you have some problems you need help with, because it's hard to see the bottlenecks and the areas that are underperforming in your own business when you're inside the business. It's like reading the label of a jar when you're inside the jar. So if your revenue is rocky or you need a second set of eyes on your business, I'll help you develop your positioning and offers and marketing and everything in between so you can have a predictable income and the freedom. So if you're interested, I'll pop a link below. Talk soon, guys.